Hello, and welcome to your week 2 lab video. We're going to look at lab 2. So you should have already watched the lecture, and if you have not, go back and do that first. We're going to look at, in this week's lab, how to use the Linux shell, access help, edit the command line, access the command history, navigate the file system, create and manage directories, and how to use some command line text editors. This lab builds on lab 1, so if you haven't done the week 1 content, you need to go back and do that. And it picks up exactly where we left off at the end of lab 1. We created a Ubuntu instance in AWS. We're going to use that instance in this week to do this entire lab, start to finish. A note about this lab, it's a little different than the others, ever so slightly. In that there's some check scripts to run. I'm trying to find the first one. There we go, here's the first one. So you're going to clone these in. There's 3 check scripts to run, and they're going to tell you if your stuff is done or not. And when you get a success message like this, you see everything is okay, take a screenshot, and you're going to upload those 3 screenshots with your submission in eCentennial. So there's 3 check scripts, 3 screenshots. You're going to create, manipulate, and remove some directories. Then we're going to do some text editing stuff. And then again, at the end we complete the lab, so submit those screenshots to eCentennial. Apparently I need to fix this. And there's some exploration questions at the bottom. So, with that in mind, I'm going to move this to my other screen, and we're going to get into the Learner Lab. And I already spun this up, as you can tell by the timer. It's counted down by 3 minutes. You should be familiar with the Learner Lab a little bit from Lab 1. And if you don't feel like you're an expert with it yet, don't worry. We're going to be using the Learner Lab and AWS every single lab this semester, so you're going to have lots of practice. You've only ever done it once. I don't expect you to be an expert once. So to get into the lab, click Start Lab, and then when that goes green, which mine already has because I did that before I started recording, you just click there and to go in. There's your countdown timer, there's your value used, and look, I've used 20 cents already. And when you're done, don't forget to end your lab. So let's get into AWS. We're going to go into EC2. And the instance that we spun up last week, we've got it right here. Now, because it doesn't have a static IP, it's pulling from DHCP, which is something that we're going to do next week. We're going to deal with elastic IPs, which is what AWS calls static IPs, or how they deal with static IPs. We'll talk about that next week. That's next week content, because that's not quite 100% accurate of a description. Once you look at the instance here, right, you can connect either this way using the instance connect. Just click the connect button and it'll launch your browser. Or you can do it from the command line, and I'm actually just going to do that. So to connect from the command line, I'm going to do it in, I was going to do it in Linux, but hold on, I can do this in Windows. Give me 2 seconds. Alright. So I run Linux on my home computer, but I do have a Windows 10 VirtualBox, virtual machine in VirtualBox for times like this when I need Windows. And I think it's useful to show you that you can do this from Windows too, right? Because that's what most people have. I guess I should get around to installing a Windows 11 one, but I'm doing this in Windows 10 for now. So there we go. So you don't need this virtual machine. This is just showing you doing this with the tools that most people are probably using, because most people are Windows users. So just copy this command here. I'm just going to drag that to the side and paste it into your command line, which you should actually be able to do. I had to type it out, but just right click, edit, paste, which you have to, I think, right click on the title bar, not just on the window anywhere. And hit enter. Oops. Say yes. And look at that, we're into our virtual machine. Isn't that awesome? And the first thing I'm going to do is clear my screen. So as always, I'm not going to talk about everything that is in the lab. I mean, obviously you need to read through and do everything that's in the lab. But we're going to learn how to use Linux from the command line using Ubuntu Server, because next week in Lab 3, you're going to install and configure Apache, which is an open source web server. We talked about commands in the lecture, so all Linux commands have arguments, or not all, but some. They often have arguments, right? So your command structure is a command and then multiple arguments. Arguments can be path names, they can be command options, they can be text that the command can use to modify the way the command opens. So it tells you to start the AWS Learner Lab, which I've already done, and log into your Ubuntu server name first using SSH, which I've done here. You could do this from the command line like that. You could also just click that connect through the browser thing. It's totally up to you which one you do. And it's just a series of issue the commands and observe the output. So let's start with the first one, pwd, which, if you recall, means print working directory. And we see we're in the Ubuntu user home directory, which I think I talked about in the lecture. Now, we'll issue an ls and observe the output, and there's actually nothing there, right? Because there's nothing in this directory. There's nothing in this user. And that's okay. We're going to change to the bin directory now, which exists in root because it has a slash in front. And to confirm, we change to the bin directory. I mean, you can already see it here visually on the screen. It shows we're in the bin directory, but you could issue the pwd command. And there we go. And throughout the lab, there's some, what do you think this command did? I'm not going to answer that here, and you don't need to answer that in any sort of submission, but they're there to get you to think about what you're doing, right? So now we're going to issue some ls commands. Note the difference in output. So ls of the bin directory, and holy crap, there's a lot of files here, right? ls-l, well, we just used an option, and note it changed the output, right? ls gave us all of the files, but just the file names. ls-l gave us a whole bunch of stuff here. So we've got the file permissions, who owns the file, what group they're in, the size of the file, and the date it was last modified. We could do this on ls-bin as well, right? Without actually being in the bin directory. We're already in the bin directory. Oh, I skipped a few steps. I had to issue cd without options. And what did that do? It put us in our home directory. Now we're going to do ls/bin and lsl/bin. So as you can see, they work the same. This one actually is telling you that it's actually a symbolic link to user bin, which is interesting. We got a ton of stuff on our screen. Let's clear it. So we can use the clear command. Awesome. Now, I mentioned in the lecture, I may reference that a lot in this, right? It's important to be able to get help as you need it and learn things as you go, because you're not always going to remember the syntax for a command, right? Don't memorize everything. Never memorize anything you can look up, which is a quote often attributed to Albert Einstein. I'm not sure if it's actually correctly attributed to him, but never memorize anything you can look up. So let's apply that here, right? Let's look at let's use the man command to look at the man page, or look at a man page. And there's actually, believe it or not, a man page for the man command. Seems a bit daft, but there it is. So we can scroll through. You might be able to use your up and down arrow keys, but you can definitely use the enter key to go down. Spacebar down one screen at a time. Control B will take you up. And let's just show you that work, right? So B takes you up. We can search for a pattern. So let's say search. Whoops. Enter. And it's not actually searching for stuff, which is bizarre. Oh, because I put the slash at the end. There we go. So watch, search. Let's try search again now. It's a stupid little mistake. So there we go. And if you want to go to the next one, you just push N. That's a useful thing. And you want to get out of here? Q. And we're out. Now it says to do. Access the man page for the ls command. Browse through and make note of the following options. Long listing format. It says use a long listing format. And do not ignore entries starting with a dot. So you can use the search utility for that within the man page, and man ls will get you in there, like so. I'm not going to spoil the fun, even though one of the answers was totally just on the screen. I want you to go look for this yourself, because it's useful to be able to look for things, right? I'm not trying to be lazy. It's just, it's useful to be able to teach yourself what you don't know. It's a useful skill. So now, we're going to change to the bin directory. And we're going to try a bunch of different key combinations to see what they do. So first up, Control A. Oh, we type cd bin. It says do not hit enter. I'm apparently not so good at following my own directions at the moment. That's okay. Like, sometimes you learn by watching someone make a mistake, right? So cd bin, don't hit enter. Control A. Oh, look at that. I'm at the beginning of the line. Control F. Look, I'm going forward one letter at a time. Control A again. Alt F. Going forward one word at a time. That kind of handy. Alt B. Going back one word at a time. Control W. Oh, there we go. It deleted the word before the cursor. So I got to go to the end of the line to do that again. Hopefully it's not making that horrible noise in your ear. I'm actually just going to mute this just in case it is, because I don't like that horrible error noise. And I'm just going to type ls now. And Control E to go to the end and hit enter, which technically going to the end is not enter, or not required. And note, I've edited my command, right? It was cd bin, I changed it to ls. And as always, Control U will clear the command line, which there's nothing there, right? But I could hit up, Control U, and hey, it's gone. Now up is something that was going to show you in the next bit. You can use the up arrow to cycle backwards through your history, which is handy. And you can use the down arrow if you go too far to execute a command. So this could be very useful, right? Because sometimes you'll make a mistake and you want to fix it, but you don't want to type out the command again, so you just hit up to get that command back, edit it accordingly, and hit enter. It's a lot quicker way of getting what you need. But also, sometimes you issue a command, maybe it's a complex command or a more complex command, or you just can't remember it, but you know you issued it before, and you want to pull it out from your history. You can totally do that with the history command. And it'll show you everything you've done. Note, not a lot of stuff I've done, right? And you can execute any of these things by entering or typing exclamation mark followed by either the number. I see numbered entries. I was just trying to point with my finger and that doesn't work too well. The number beside here. So let's say I want to change back to the CD. Let's do 22, right? That'll change back to the CD. Change back to the bin directory, CD bin, right? And note what happened. It executed the command I'm in bin. Now let's say I want to go home. I could just type exclamation mark and Well, that's not actually going to work because I just changed to the bin directory. You can hit exclamation mark, follow it with any partial command, right? So exclamation mark P will search for that within your history and execute the first match it finds. So in this case, it was PWD, and there we go. It issued PWD. It's pretty awesome. So that's like some really basic commands. Let's look at the file system now. We're going to need to use tree, which I believe isn't installed by default, so we need to install it. Oh, sudo snap install tree. You see, it told us on the command line. It's installing now. There, it's done. So tree is a cool utility because it actually gives us the ability to see graphical representation of the directories we have. So if we just do tree right now, we see everything. Let's go to our home directory because that's a lot of stuff. And there's our home directory. Kind of cool. We're going to use this later. Don't worry. Then I talked about path names for a bit, but let's go to the next part where we're actually going to do something. We'll talk about files. We're going to make some directories. The first thing we're going to do, oh, there's my snap install tree note. I jumped ahead of myself. It's there. Don't worry, it's there. So we're going to create the bin directory in our current directory. Whoops, sorry, mkdir. And then we're going to use git, which we're going to use git later in the semester, right? We're going to use git to clone an existing repo that has your lab check scripts for this lab in it. Isn't that awesome? We're going to stick that right in the bin directory. And everything should be there. We're also going to install tree, which I already did, right? Sudo snap install tree. And then let's create some directories. So it gives you a directory structure on the screen. We're gonna create those with a couple different ways. There's two different ways we're going to do this. We're going to do this as using absolute directories or absolute paths. So an absolute path name describes exactly where a thing is descending from root, right? We talked about that in the lecture. And then we're going to delete it all and recreate it again using relative path names. And we're also going to make it easier. We're going to use the -p option and just do it all in one go. It's going to be, you're going to see how much easier it is. There's a reason why I'm making you do it the hard way first. So first we're going to mkdir home Ubuntu CNET. I'm just going to clear my screen for a second because there's a lot of crap here. Home Ubuntu CNET 204. Incidentally, you can hit tab to autocomplete stuff, which is pretty handy. See? Tab, great. That's how I do that so quick. And we did an ls, right? There's nothing there because it's empty. Could do ls-a and it would show you that there's actually two files in there that every directory has by default. And let's -d. And I totally could have gotten back to there to edit that faster. And we see there's the name of the directory, so it definitely exists. Now we're going to create two more directories. Home Ubuntu CNET 104 and home Ubuntu CNET 124. And then let's confirm they were created. So ls-ld home Ubuntu CNET 104 and home Ubuntu CNET 1.2. And note when you use tab to autocomplete with those, it puts a slash at the end, and that's totally okay. We see, oh, look at that, they were created. Let's make some some new files in the CNET204 directory, but we're going to change there first. Whoops, cd CNET204. We're going to create 3 files, or 3 directories. Notes, labs, and samples. So we're using relative paths here, right? We changed to that directory first, so these are going to create within our directory. And if we do an ls to confirm, look at that, everything's there. And now we're just going to get rid of it all and redo it. So rm-r CNET204, 104. So that was a lot of stuff. Watch how quickly we can do it in a single command. I'm going to clear my screen for this next part. So mkdir-p, we're going to create CNET204 notes, 204 labs, samples, 104, and CNET124. Note, I didn't specify CNET204 here. Because I included the -p option, it's going to create the parent directory and then the child directories. So I actually don't have to include the name of that directory either. And if we do an ls, a tree, we see everything created. And now we're going to run that first lab check. So to run that first lab check, /bin lab2 check 1. That's using a relative to home path name. There we go. We see everything was completed. It's all good. Okay, so check 1 done. Let's move on to the next part. I'm going to clear my screen. So we're going to recursively copy CNET204 into CNET124, and we're going to move CNET104. Well, it says issue the tree command. Let's do that first. So we see, yep, it copied everything. We just got a complete copy of the directory and its subdirectories in there. And now we're going to move CNET104 into CNET124, CNET204 labs, and issue the tree command again to see that everything took, and it did. And time for check 2. And look at that, everything worked. So, screenshot there, right, of the first one and the second one. Out of curiosity, can I go back and, yeah, I can't go back and do the first one. So yeah, should have taken a screenshot there. This is why it's important to read the instructions, not just follow along with the video, right? Now let's get rid of everything. rm-ri, CNET124, and CNET204. Yes, 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 yes. You have to say yes to everything because we used the -i option, right? If we didn't use the -y option, it would have not prompted for that. And let's do check 3. And hey, look, everything's there. That's awesome. Now on to Nano and Vi really quick. So 2 text editors we're going to use in Linux. Nano, the more user-friendly one. We're going to create 2 files. First one's going to be mytext.txt. And we can just start typing here. So this issuing Nano with the name of the file will open the file for editing if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create it and open it for editing. It's kind of handy. You can also just issue it without an argument, but when you save, it'll prompt you for a file name. So let's enter some text. And then Control O to save. It says write out. Yes, we want to save it there. And Control X will get us out. That one's done. let's check out Vim quickly. And feel free to go back in and practice a few things if you want until you're comfortable. But I'm just going to go to the Vi part now. So Vim, other text, dot text. You have to go into insert mode. You're in command mode first. So I will put you into input mode. And then we can start typing. And when you're done, escape to go back into command mode, and then colon to go into last slide mode. And we could save with W. We could save and quit by adding a Q there, write and quit. Or if we want to do both at the same time, an X will save and exit. And there we go. There's a whole bunch of useful commands in Vi. There's a list of them, read over them, play around with things. But that's it. That's it. Take screenshots. Well, hopefully you took screenshots of your check scripts, the 3 of them. Submit those to the Dropbox on eCentennial. That's Lab 2. It's a really quick overview of Linux and how to use it. Take care, be safe, and I will see you next week, or rather you will see me in the Lab 3 videos. Bye for now.